Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. Woo!
Hi, everybody!
Woo! Hello!
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Free Guy.
Frigway!
I'll take one guy for free, please.
One free complimentary guy.
Did the theater give you your guy when you went in?
Buddy, if we're not real, doesn't that mean that nothing you do matters?
I am sitting here with my best friend trying to help him get through a tough time. Now, if that's not real, I don't know what is.
Millie, I know this world is just a game, but this place, these people, that's all I have. Thanks, guy.
Who is this guy?
This character in the video game Free City has been turning heads by being the good guy.
Who is Blue Shirt Guy?
You're absolutely right. Who is he or she, indeed?
This loser is ruining the game, man. I don't care if he's Arnold frickin' Schwarzenegger. Terminate him.
Yeah, this is the thing that's out.
The thing,
It's been doing really well, apparently. It killed it in the box office. Suicide Squad, not so much. I saw that. It's gotten a lot of really good reviews. I've expressed being so sick of the marketing, so I'm so happy it's out. For that reason,
we don't have to watch Free Guy commercials anymore after this.
Yeah. Tom, how did you like Free Guy?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's well, it's certainly the Truman Show.
It's a lot of things. It's the Truman Show. It's Pleasantville. This is not a new idea.
No, but it is super the Truman Show. When I started thinking about it, happy-go-lucky guy with a catchphrase has the same day over and over again in a loop, gets broken out of it because of his interest in a woman who is also rebelling against the creator of the world, which he learns he's a part of. The world represents trash pop culture of its time, reality TV or GTA. He escapes via the ocean to show that the world is an illusion, but the creator tries to stop him desperately at the last minute. I couldn't help but feel like it's the Truman Show with just less nuance, which isn't to say it's a bad movie. Just as soon as I realized it was the Truman Show, it kind of demystified a lot of it for me. But yeah, I mean, this is fun. It's a fun movie.
Yeah, I think it's fun. It's a relevant shift in that idea. Like it's an update of that idea.
It's an update, but I do agree. I do think it has less nuance and less. I was certainly happy for the characters by the end, but I wasn't as emotionally affected as I was when I first saw The Truman Show, which isn't to say I was terribly emotionally affected for that movie either. I just don't. I think I don't know. I guess here's my first question for you, because one of the things I ran into is that I didn't find a lot of it very funny. I found it charming.
Yeah.
I would say, actually, I didn't like this movie for the first half, and I liked it a lot more for the second half.
Okay.
And I'm not entirely sure why.
I don't know. You're throwing three big arguments at me right off the top. So it's
right.
like
well,
I'm not really having a chance to engage with any of them right now.
One thing at a time. One thing at a time, then.
Yeah, I agree with, I think it's an updated version of The Truman Show. It's way less cynical than The Truman Show is.
Yeah.
It's less, I guess it's less nuance. I mean, I remember The Truman Show having the nuance of a bus accident, but maybe that's just me.
Well, that's the thing, though, is that you're right. The Truman Show isn't particularly nuanced. But, for example, making Ed Harris the creator, who, loves him in this weird, sick way.
Whose name is literally Christ.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And who tries to kill him.
Dave. Yeah.
Yeah.
His name is Christ.
Having that character be his creator.
Yeah.
And having him be like sad that he's killing him was for me more frustrating almost, and more like devastating than watching. Taika Waititi is great in this.
Yeah.
But he's, as a villain, he only really becomes sinister to me in that last scene with him. I just think Truman Show, you're right, isn't that nuanced, but I think they took away what little nuance that did have.
I think it's saying something different. It's similar, but it's a different. It's more about, like, Truman Show was about everyone else was in on keeping this guy trapped, and this is almost, well, it's not really the reverse, but it's more like the Truman Show was the product of one man. It was the product of Christoph Ed Harris.
Yeah.
Like, he was the creator controller, so he was the antagonist. He was in control of anything. The idea that Free Guy is presenting is that we're given these, like, he's in a world that's being created by the people who are in it.
Right.
And so it's like more about, what do you do with freedom? Like, what should you do with a sandbox like this? Why, like, I think it's similar, and obviously the beats are similar as you lay them out like that, but I think it's a different version of that idea. It's more about, we are all in, it's less about the control that Taika has over the world, and it's more about, well, we're all in control. What do we decide to do with this? And Taika only freaks out when he's losing that control at the end, because that's all he really cares about, is being in control.
Right, which is what Christ also.
Well,
has. The Christ arc is
Ed Harris
he'd rather kill Truman. Is his name Truman in it? I assume it is.
Yes.
I don't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It is the Truman Show after all.
Yeah.
He'd rather kill him than lose control of him. Lose him.
Yes.
I would say,
but he's more sorrowful. He's more. I think it's different. Like, they're different characters, because Christoph is more like the artiste, the creator. They're two different versions of God.
Yes, which is why I think I like the Christ one better, because Taika Waititi is just, I want money, and that's his motivations, I feel like, are way less complex.
Yeah.
Christoph is, he has a God complex. He has enslaved a man and has convinced himself that he loves him and that he is in control of him. And when the guy defies him, he can't handle it.
Yeah.
Which I just find more compelling than Taika Waititi just like, I want the money, give me the money, as a motivator for a character. That said, Taika Waititi, way more fun to watch than Ed Harris.
Yeah. And
way more fun to watch.
It's less complex, and it may be less thematically satisfying, but I just view it as it's a different version of God. Like, it's a less complex, it's a more lizard brain, chaotic, no intent behind it, and that is a view of a creator. The idea of a creator is that, well, what if we're just, like Al Pacino shouts in the Devil's Advocate, he's an absentee landlord. Like, this is just a different view of God. And also, I think there's an additional element of nuance in that Truman is a real person, but Guy is not. So it adds a little bit to that idea of, well, should he be able to just pull the plug? Because he's just code.
Right, but they don't really explore any of that, I would say. There's a lot
not exhaustively. It's real. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not a movie that's like exploring any philosophical ideas, I would say.
I disagree. It might not get into them, but it's definitely asking a lot of philosophical questions.
Yeah, but I don't think it cares about those questions.
It's not its ultimate purpose, no.
Yeah. One other similarity is the fact that they keep cutting away to everybody watching. There's like, that was one of the funniest things, by the way. The only part of this movie that I would say I rolled my eyes for is when the Jeopardy scene, that montage, where for some reason an NPC was making national news. That I didn't understand, but whatever. I just think it's ultimately, it borrows a lot from The Truman Show for its structure, and then it just lays on top of it kind of a broad comedy that, I don't know, there was scattered laughter wise. People seemed to like it. I really liked, there was some moments I really liked. But ultimately, I guess what I'm getting at is that this movie I found good, but I found it ultimately forgettable, I think. Like, I'm not going to be thinking about this one for a while.
I don't know. I enjoyed its ideas. I liked that it was sort of turning the camera around towards, you know, this new pop culture, you know, fad of video games and like MMOs and kind of how we behave in them.
Yeah, but I think that's interesting, but ultimately I don't know what the message is there, because it's like, yeah, if the characters were alive, that would be an issue, right? And I guess, like, if it was an allegory for the internet is how we treated each other, which it kind of touches on, but not really. It's also almost about the video game industry, which that was the part where I was like, ooh, that would be fun. Mm-hmm. Like talking about AAA games and overworking people, and yeah. But it never quite does that either. And I didn't really get any like clear message of what it had to say about something like Fortnite or GTA. It didn't feel like it had sort of that issue where when video games are in movies, they don't feel like real video games, mm-hmm. which I think this movie did a pretty good job.
It's just GTA Online.
Yeah. The things that bothered me was like when it came time for references, they did Disney references, not other video game references. You know what I mean?
There are video game references in it, yeah, but they're not as explicit as the Captain America and lightsaber moment. But yeah, like he uses the portal gun, he uses the gravity gun from Half-Life 2.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in the background. If you watch, you'll see like in one scene where he's checking his balance at the ATM, in the background, and he's not even really in focus, there's just some clown trying to jump up on top of a building. And it looks exactly like somebody, like they play around with, it was a comment you made about the Mortal Kombat movie this year, where they kind of reference the mechanics of the game itself, where Kano's jumping over the foot sweep. Like there's a lot of moments like that where they're just referencing like gameplay mechanics.
There's a character who does the teabagging.
Yep.
Channing Tatum was a delight.
He was great. Getting him to play an avatar that's just doing all the stupid dance emotes that they cram into these games was a very inspired decision.
Yeah, that was a great idea. Again, I didn't like the payoff that he's a nerdy kid in real life, because we've seen that a million times.
Sure.
And I guess that's what it is with the humor, is that when you take away the humor, mm-hmm. like if I found a lot of this low-hanging fruit with the humor, and so when you take that away, I had to focus on the plot, because I wasn't mm-hmm. losing myself in the humor. Some people, the guy behind me was losing his fucking shit during this.
Sure.
So it's clearly making people laugh.
I almost I would not call this a comedy, at least not first. Like that wouldn't be the first genre I would list. This is more like this feels like a adventure comedy to me. Like it's more.
Yeah, it's not an action movie.
No, it's more like adventure to me. And then I more so than the comedy, what was like really sticking with me about this movie was its positivity.
Yeah, I really liked the positivity. That was I really liked the overall vibe of the movie. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I started to like it in the second half, because I enjoyed being in the universe.
Yeah.
Like, even though it wasn't making me laugh, it was charming me.
Yeah.
Also, I did like I think the moment I was like enjoying myself was Channing Tatum. So that checks out.
Yeah, he's their scenes together are a delight.
I really, really liked Swole Ryan Reynolds.
As a dude.
I thought I wasn't gonna. What it was for me was the fact that he's incomplete. Like programming wise, so the shit he says is so nonsense.
Yeah,
that was great.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun ideas in this movie, and I think I disagree that there's not a clear like I think the clear message in this movie is we should be nicer to each other. Like, why is it that we sit here and play these games that just encourage us to be, I think Jodie Comer says it in the movie, but just like sociopathic assholes.
Yeah.
It's we just sort of you immediately brush that away, like I feel myself reflexively doing that, because you're like, well, that's just video games. It's like, yeah, but why is that? Like, why do we need to behave like this?
Well, in video games,
yeah,
it never brings that message into the real world, and in fact, they make a joke at it, and I'm so glad they did, because this almost. Where she's like, in the regular world, there's no bank robberies. In the real world, there's no this. And then he's like, yeah, in the real world, there's no gun violence. And she's like, well, actually, that's a real problem.
Yeah.
And so, but the setup to that is the real world is better than this. So it's still squarely like, why are we bad in video games? And I guess it's hard because it feels like it's touching the surface of an idea. But when it's like, why are we bad in GTA Online? And it's like, well, we're not really. Like, people are just playing the game.
Yeah.
And that's how the game is played. And like
it's also,
online toxicity is a good...
Yeah.
It's a good thing to explore, but it's not exclusive to games that are violent. Like, you can get that in any game. It's about our behavior to each other.
Yes.
Because we don't see each other like real people.
Yes.
And again, it does definitely brush the surface of that, but it never says anything.
Well, I don't think that I needed it to be terribly explicit about. Like, it felt very clear that that's what it was about. At least to me, as I was watching it. Like, I didn't need them to look into the camera and tell me that this is we sure have learned something today.
Well, I kind of needed them to say more about that.
Sure.
Because it felt like they were taking those ideas. It's kind of this, again, the same way the Truman Show doesn't really answer things either. Like that, I would say the Truman Show is has a lot of the same problems, where it's not a particularly deep movie either.
I don't think it's a particularly good movie.
No, it's not. I would say it's more emotionally satisfying as a movie than this.
Yeah, I think it depends on... I don't know. Like, I agree that they're similar themes, and obviously this movie borrowed a lot of its structure from it, but I don't think they're that comparable in terms of
I think they're both
what it's saying, or the themes that it's wants you to think about.
I guess it feels like the themes are both surface level observations about popular media at the time, because the Truman Show was like, what is the cost of reality TV, essentially? We're watching, like, what is the price of entertainment of this genre of peeking into someone's every waking moment? It was during that era, it was the era of, like, oh, reality TV, that sure is something, and this is, like, kind of talking about, like we said, like, the online toxicity of how people treat each other in video games. That never, and I guess it's about individuality and breaking out of your routine, and that, like, Lego movie stuff.
I think it's less about that. It's more about the community idea, and of we should just be nicer to each other. Yeah. No, you're right. It's. I thought it was going to be more Lego movie, and it definitely isn't. Because it's. And I would argue that this is a more complete picture of what it's talking about, because the Truman Show came out. We had a couple of years of reality TV, but it really came out kind of still before the real explosion of reality TV. Like, we had, like, The Real World and shit, but, like, I would say Truman Show came out right as Survivor was coming out. Like, we hadn't gotten Kardashians, we hadn't gotten Real Housewives, we hadn't gotten there was a lot of reality TV yet to come, and, like, the actuality of reality TV was still, like, being decided when the Truman Show came out. So it's more based on the general idea of it. And I think Free Guy, since MMOs have been a thing for like 20 years now, it has a much more complete picture to sort of comment on. So it feels more authentic to me as a piece of commentary on on the specific piece of pop culture that it's commenting on. I think both scenarios
that they present are kind of naive. Like the Truman Show, it's like, well, we would never actually do that. I also don't believe that NPCs would ever come alive. Like they're both starting from very like kind of ridiculous starting points. I liked how they explained it. Mm-hmm. Although I don't even know if they had to be honest. I think it would have been better if it was kind of like just magic, like he was just self-aware. But I don't know. I was surprised by them explaining that, and I thought they did a fun job of explaining it.
Yeah. No,
tying it into the plot.
Yeah, it gives additional stakes for the rest of the characters, and yeah, it gives you I think
them something to do.
Yeah, I think the movie is better for that inclusion. It didn't need to do it, but like it feels like a better story. It involves the other characters more, and it gives us more of more of like a direct real world reason to be mad at Taika.
It's more that it's very efficiently written that way, where they're like not only are we explaining why he is what he is, but it's also the MacGuffin. Yeah, essentially is the fact that he's able to do this is because of something. I found that to be I don't know, refreshing in how it was written in.
Yeah.
I guess do we need to talk about the plot? I don't know. I don't know how bad the pandemic is for people. I didn't feel like this was something I needed to see in theaters. This feels like one that really should have been put on streaming. But I know they don't have that, control over it. This didn't feel like something I needed to go to a theater and see on a big screen. And I don't know how many people are actually seeing it this weekend.
Oh, probably not a lot. Like, the virus keeps exploding, like new cases. Sony just moved 2 of their big movies for the fall. So like, things are looking, movies were never really back. And things are looking pretty grim for theaters right now.
So I would tell people not to see this in theaters. I would tell them to wait.
I mean, I guess it's, this is, I don't know, like next to, this is one of the better blockbusters I've seen recently, for sure.
Yeah, but I do think it's that what we talked about with Suicide Squad, which is that like people are talking about how this is original, and it's like sorta like I think it borrows from a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but so does everything. Like what? Like
yeah, but I would say if you were to go back and watch Truman Show and watch this again, like it is so structurally the same. They borrowed. There's the beat where he's like resets in a way where he stops. He accepts the world again. Like they borrow so much from it, and again, it is technically. I'm just saying that it's very derivative, and so it feels like the bar lowering when we're like, it's so refreshing to see an original thing. That isn't really that original.
Okay.
I mean, I just like it's kind of what you said though. The pandemic, like, there's been only a handful of blockbusters.
Yeah, and
for us to choose from,
and most of them are hollow, cynical products. Like at least Suicide Squad is fun and well written, and at least Free Guy is like positive and is like trying to put something good in your mind, and it's like it's not really selling any specific product.
Well, except for Disney, but yes, I know what you're saying. It's I really could have done without the Disney references, I think, because I think like that muddled. I really wish this was more of a celebration of video games. I think that would have been a better direction for it if it was squarely like, we're gonna celebrate game culture and criticize it.
Yeah.
And then like adding like a lightsaber and the Captain America shield, even though that's a Chris Evans cameo, which is delightful.
Yeah, it's a fun cameo.
Yeah, it just felt like, now we're just jerking Disney off here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. What are you going to do? Disney's going to be Disney.
Yeah. Oh, they definitely are.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You're right in the fact that, like, I mean, I think most movies are trying to put out good things. Like, I would say, that fucking Black Widow they're making it with kindness in their heart.
I suppose
it's just such a cynical process that created it.
Right, it was ticking a box on a spreadsheet and a calendar, and like it doesn't have anything to say.
It doesn't. And so this is definitely a step up from that. I haven't seen Jungle Cruise yet. I suspect that is... God, it's all Disney.
Mm-hmm. It's all
Jesus
Disney.
Fucking Christ.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what's bumming me out right now, is that it's like I feel like I'm comparing, just like it feels like I'm in the fucking coffee shop getting the 2 cream coffee.
Yep.
That he gets every day,
2
and
creams,
like complimenting
2
it.
sugars.
Yeah, it's that where they're all variations of the same giant fucking corporation making these. I think this is weird because I like Ryan Reynolds. I don't think I like his sense of humor.
Okay.
Like, I'm starting to realize that. Just because, like, it's the same with the Pokemon movie, Detective Pikachu. I didn't find that particularly funny.
Yeah.
I don't find Deadpool that funny. Like, I'm realizing I'm just not on his specific wavelength.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Mm.
There's a couple of lines he says as Guy that don't... It's clear that they were ad-libs. When he's doing his humorous descriptions of how things taste to him, that feel out of character for Guy, because the rest of the time he's very clean cut, doesn't swear, he doesn't speak like that. And like the first joke we hear him make is like, this coffee's like my mouth is losing its virginity, and it's like, well, Guy doesn't speak like that.
There's definitely a level of... I thought they were actually going to explain that, because what's her name, the woman who is one of the 2 characters who created the like algorithm that he's based off of, they also talk weird. But at first I thought, oh, he talks like they talk, but then everybody talks like that.
Yeah.
But I thought that would have been a smart move to make it so that like, oh, he.
There is a thread there where Jodie Comer, I forget her name in the movie, Millie, thinks he's funny. Like, she's the first person to like actually laugh at something he says and says, "You're funny," and it's like and then later she's describing him to Steve Harrington.
Right.
Old
like, Steve Harrington.
Yep. It's like he's funny in a weird way, and then of course we learn at the end of the film that Steve Harrington programmed Guy after he basically based him on her because he loves her. So it's there is a thread there where it's like, oh, he's making these jokes because I guess that's how she jokes, but it's still it feels out of character. It's a weird bit to have those ad libs in there. I
think they could have streamlined that, made that a little more clear.
Yeah. That's me doing the movie's work for it a little bit there.
Well, no, I also assumed that. So like I think that actually is what they were going for, because she has a line later where she says something really fucking weird, and I forget what it is.
She says weird shit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the problem is that everybody's trying to steal the scene, and so there's a lot of weird dialogue, and so it kind of gets, I think it got lost a little, that thread. I didn't mind the romance. It was a little, no, I was going to say it's a little forced, but I think that's actually one of the more subtly done things they do, because they don't slather it on.
No, it's just kind of,
her.
It's there, but they don't beat you over the head with it.
Yeah, they do like an interview where they're asked like, "Oh, are you guys a couple?" Yeah. And she says no, and you can tell he's like a little bothered. And then they have like, he programmed the character, and just the general way he acts towards her. Mm-hmm. He still has like agency, but he's clearly into her. Yeah,
and she doesn't make any decisions based on how he feels about it. Like I actually enjoyed the romance. I appreciated the way it was done.
Yeah, me too, because it wasn't in the way.
No.
And it was the realization like that audiences aren't dumb.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I mean, we don't have to like really hit you over the head with that.
Yeah, we can gather that information just from the way that they behave with each other.
Right. I do think the thing that they really let us off the hook with, in a bad way, is Guy, his arc, and his realization. Like, at the end, he kind of breaks it off with her, and he never really gets to, like... Like, he doesn't have a big existential crisis over his situation. He has a scene, and then they kind of move on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would have been more interesting to explore. And the fact that he just doesn't even bother to want to know what the real world is. I don't know. I feel like they let themselves off the hook there by not making his emotional arc particularly complex.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
also, I don't...
But it's just that it wasn't paid off with, the sex prize. Like it was...
No, that was good.
It was paid off with him getting out of Free City and getting everybody out of Free City, and now everybody gets to live the way they want to, and he and his best friend Laurel get to ride centaurs.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
it's not a terrible fate for him or anything. I just think that they didn't explore him in any... It's like what you said, where this doesn't seem like a comedy first, but it sure has a lot of comedy in it.
yeah.
And I guess it's trying to pin down what it is. It feels like it's a little bit of everything. And I think that actually kind of hurt it a little bit. I would have liked a little more focus, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely sure what that focus should be, because there's so many there's a bunch of different aspects of it that I enjoy,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we should have stayed exclusively in the world, I don't know if we should have focused on Guy realizing he's an NPC and having like a really dark journey based on that.
No, because I think another part of what the movie is trying to say, you brought it up earlier about, being stuck and breaking free of the routine. I think this is a similar thing in the two, and actually in all the programmer characters, where they're like, we get a bit from Steve Harrington where he's talking about how he wound up at Tsunami, which is clearly a Blizzard analog.
Yeah.
And he's stuck, and like his buddy Mouser is kind of stuck, and they're all. I think part of the message is it's trying to be positive all around. So I think it's trying to encourage people that you can improve your situation without having to you don't have to I don't know. I think if it had gone too dark into an exploration of an existential crisis for him, it would have kind of taken away from this movie's part of this movie's mission, which is to get people, I don't know, cheer people up a little bit. I don't know. It's I'm having trouble articulating it, but it's basically, I think they don't want people to feel like if you are stuck in a situation, they don't want you to feel hopeless about it.
They're not going to ask the big questions, and I guess they do a thing where they have Taika Waititi be like, oh, it's all about the sequels and the franchises.
Yeah.
We don't make original things. And it's like, are you talking about Disney right now? But it can't explore those things because it's made by Disney. So later they're like, remember Star Wars? Like, it's the same thing they're accusing. It's that thing where like they're trying to comment on a culture while being a part of it, so they can't quite do the thing. I feel like there was a movie recently that we reviewed that had a similar issue, but it's lost on me right now, where like they're trying to be subversive to the thing that they're a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of have to struggle with that. Like it's weird to have them talk about the idea that it's all about money and all about doing the same thing over and over again, and also have him turn into the Hulk and have a Captain America shield. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like that's going back to like, I think it breaches the surface of a lot of ideas, but it ultimately is what you're saying. It's just trying to make us feel good, and you can't fault a movie for that.
Mm-hmm.
But because it kind of, it's on the edges of all these questions, I keep thinking about its potential.
Yeah. I appreciated that they have that exchange, even though he's talking to Taika about, it's like, well, why don't we make a new game? It's like, well, why would I do that? I've got I'm just going to keep building on top of this infrastructure that we already have. I don't want to risk my profits for the sake of tearing this down to try something new. And then there's a separate scene where Jodie Comer is arguing sometimes things being profitable isn't the only reason to create. Sometimes you just need to make something because it deserves to exist.
Right.
And it's in the same movie where he pulls out a Hulk fist and a Captain America shield and a lightsaber. So it's like I like that it is putting that stuff out, those ideas out there and posing those ideas, even though it does have the references. But I don't think having the references necessarily negates it, because it is commenting on, like in Fortnite, you can get all of those skins. Like it's an authentic version of what would be in one of these games. And also, I think dinging it for having those cameos, it's perfectly valid because this is coming from Disney. But this movie was made, before the acquisition, or at least it was in production before the acquisition. But anyway, I don't want to ding it. I don't want to completely disregard what it does say and then the ideas that it does put in your mind just because he pulls out a lightsaber, because that's a bit like that meme where it's like, Apple is terrible. It's like, but you're using a knife. That person popping out of the bush, like, but you're participating in society. How interesting. It's like, well, yeah, because I don't have a choice. Like,
yeah, but they purposefully.
Yeah, it's
they're pushing Disney stuff in it.
Yeah,
it's not that it hurts it. It's that it reminds me of what it is.
Yeah.
Like it's not it reminds me that it's not subversive. And then there's other scenes where it feels like it's trying to be subversive, but it doesn't really get there. And so like ultimately it's almost like I'd rather it not try to be deep if it's not going to actually do the work. Like it's not a sci-fi. This isn't a sci-fi movie. And it like kind of talks about sci-fi elements. It reminds me, and it's actually the same writer, of a movie that I would say is not as good, Ready Player One, where Ready Player One asks a lot of questions. It presents you with stuff like an apocalypse, and then it doesn't actually say anything enough about that, where they're like, the world is terrible, and you're like, go on, and they're like, no, that's all we had to say about that. And I feel like this is that as well, where it's very surface level what it has to say, and that's not terrible. That's not like this is all going back to the fact that I enjoyed this movie all right. I just don't think I'm gonna remember it.
That's fair.
Like I just don't. I don't really have much.
I give this. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I would have rather not talked about this movie altogether, I guess, because I don't have that much to say. And if someone really likes it, like, good for them.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think this movie deserves a lot more credit than Ready Player One. Because Ready Player One really is all references and all just pointing at stuff and not even attempting to say anything. This movie does a lot of pointing, and its commentary is surface level, but it's got it's more purposeful, its intent is more clear. I think it goes into it. It's still pretty superficial, but I think it explores it more than Ready Player One does, for sure. Oh,
I would argue that Ready Player One not only doesn't explore it, but actually says bad things.
It does say bad things. Yeah,
the main character gets rich at the end, and he's like, and everything worked out, and it's like, wait a second.
And like in that way, like I really appreciated kind of how this ends, where it's like, it shows that Taika's in a little bit of a hot water because his game is not selling very well, and then it shows how Steve Harrington and Jodie Comer and the other programmer Mouser they have their code back, they have their game back, and they're allowed to have their game and have it exist, but their entire operation is out of a 1-bedroom apartment. Like it's they're not rich now. Right. It's just they made a thing that they believed in and they wanted it to exist, and they are they're happy because they made this thing. I don't know. That was, I guess, I found that reassuring as a struggling creative myself.
Yes, but I do. All right, I want to push back on the Disney thing a bit because imagine this movie about movies. Imagine if it was about a guy existing in a blockbuster and indie filmmakers it gets stolen from, and it's from Disney. Like it's like going back to the Apple thing. It's the equivalent of like that Apple 1984 ad, right? Where they're like, "Oh, be part of the revolution," and it's like, no, you're not part of the revolution. And that's, I think, what bothers me is that it's a giant corporation making a movie that's just like, yeah, screw the man, indie all the way. And it's like, but really? Because you're actually part of the problem, Disney. And it's weird that this message is coming from this giant blockbuster that is that. Mm-hmm. Granted, it is an original script, and it has that going for it, but like that's not enough for me for them to like, you know, really take a huge bow, because it's still a giant blockbuster, international, huge stars. You know, it's got Captain America cameoing, and so I don't know. It just feels a little disingenuous. The like big corporation versus indie, mind you. Same with Ready Player One. Same with a lot of things, because these movies have to write underdogs, and you know, these studios are monsters. And this is just the fact that it's specifically about big studio versus indie studio is like, oof, I don't know. I feel like it was a bad idea for them to remind me that they are in fact a big studio ultimately. Yeah. So I guess that's what I'm saying with that.
Yeah. No. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's still pleasant movie.
Yeah. It was a charming film.
Yeah, everybody's doing a great job.
Yeah.
The director, the actors, everybody's doing a bang-up job.
It's a very well-made movie.
Yeah. And if you enjoy it and it makes you happy, then good. Because I think it definitely doesn't put anything bad into the world. Like you said, it's a positive message. It's not cynical. It's not, even if there's a level of hypocrisy, it's still saying the right stuff. Mm-hmm.
I still feel like the film was mostly made in earnest. Like I don't, you know, with the lightsaber bullshit or whatever, that's, you know, okay. Like that's you got to pay the man.
I would argue the movie was written in earnest, and then it got bigger, and then like Ryan Reynolds got attached, and it became like, I'm guessing there was like the Disney stuff that was definitely came later. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
They wrote a draft, and then they're like, put this stuff in, and we can get Chris Evans. And like, yeah, I think it has limited studio meddling, but it still has some. But
sure, probably.
Yeah, I agree with you that it wasn't just that it was written in earnest, but that I think a lot of that came through.
Yeah, I think it maintains most of it.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. I think it does video games okay. Although it's weird that she kisses him, because they say there's not a button for that. Mm-hmm. How'd she kiss him?
I don't know.
They really needed. They literally set that up, and then she just does it later. And I was like, well, you're gonna have to explain that. That was weird. And again, I couldn't stand the montage where they're like, everybody's talking about this NPC. I was like, no, they aren't.
Yeah, why would
nobody's
they be? Why would
nobody's
they be?
Talking. He's not a Jeopardy question. What a ridiculous idea. Also,
well, they didn't know he was an NPC at that time. They thought he was just some rogue player who was coming into this world and stopping the other players from being assholes.
Right. That's still not enough, though. But for it to be international news, like they're cutting to people on the news, like they should have just stayed with like Twitch streamers. You know what I mean? Made it like the gaming world is all talking about. I don't know. Also, I think it's really funny that the cynical version of this is that the Taika Waititi is putting out a sequel quickly, and it's like, oh, if only GTA did that. If only. Like that's not the problem with GTA. The problem with GTA is the opposite.
Yeah, but that's not. Yeah, I don't.
No, I just thought that was funny.
Yeah,
that this is like the GTA analog putting out a sequel. I was like, oh, yes, please, Jesus Christ. You've had 5 for how long? How long have we had 5?
Yeah, I mean, they're still updating and maintaining. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
They're still adding things to the online, but yeah, if they don't need to rebuild the thing, it remains the best-selling video game ever.
Right. I think the instinct, like, that's the one thing they got wrong, right? Is the instinct with a video game company, if they're like, if we can just have the same game, and milk that.
No, not with
really?
Not with Activision Blizzard. That's like what famously happened with Destiny. I don't think it's not true. It's just that Taika and the game company in the movie Tsunami, they're an amalgam. Like it's a composite of a lot of different things. So it's Blizzard, but it's also obviously the game is GTA.
I would say the game is GTA plus Fortnite. It's definitely got the Fortnite aesthetic. Like when she goes on that weird little flyer and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Sure. Yeah, and all the emotes. But you can emote in just about every game now. But that really started to get big in Fortnite.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that's more, because it's like they put out a new Call of Duty every year. That's Activision. Like Activision is big on we need a new game every year. It doesn't matter if a new game is justified or if I have spoken on that.
Sure. I mean, something needs to be done about AAA game companies.
It's the same thing. General. Yeah, something needs to be done about AAA movies as well.
That's true.
It's all cynical product pushing, and I appreciate this movie coming out, and even though it is a big blockbuster, it's talking about this stuff, and it's like, why do we need to perpetuate this culture?
Yeah.
What's the value there? I don't know.
Because it's just fun. They didn't have enough people role-playing in this. They didn't have enough people assuming, like, the identities of boars running around pretending to be boars.
They weren't going on the RP servers, yeah.
No, they weren't going on the RP servers.
The guy would have fit right in.
Yeah. There was still... Yeah, guy would have been fine.
Yeah.
I want a fucking cameo from Daniel from SL. Yeah, coming in and just being a maniac.
I kept thinking about him while I was watching this movie.
That would have been delightful. Were those actually Twitch streamers? I'm so old.
Yes.
Yeah, they must have been, right?
Mm-hmm.
They did fine for being not actors. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Sure.
Yeah.
And point of fact, one of them is that guy Ninja who had Drake on his Fortnite stream.
Oh, really?
Which is, like, I think still holds like the streaming record on Twitch.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Cool. I got nothing more to say.
No, I thought this was a charming film. I liked it, and I appreciated the positivity. This and Ted Lasso. I hope that continues, because I'm getting a little tired of mean-spirited comedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I haven't watched Theodore Lasso, but that looks... Everybody says it's good. I'll definitely check it out. I get what you're saying. I guess for me, it's just this went right through me. Like, I spent most of the movie just kind of blankly watching, and I was the whole time thinking, like, man, I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about. And it's fine.
No, you're good. I think we got a good discussion out of this. So.
Oh yeah. That's.
But I think it's come to an end.
I agree on that. Yeah. Hey, folks, thanks for listening. Listen, we have a Patreon. You can check it out by going to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. You got exclusive podcasts on there, like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, and Fox Mulder is a Maniac, and Star Trek: The Next Futurama. $5 a month, you get all of that, and for $10 a month, you watch movies with us every Friday night. That's a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, check it out. There's tons of stuff.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things you can dig into. Dave, it sounded like you were about to say codcasts, and I think we should make one where it's just us.
A Call of Duty?
A codcast where it's just 40 minutes of us wetly slapping a fish against a microphone.
Ooh, fish. Yeah, fish talk. Yeah, I'm down.
Fishcast. No, obviously it's Codcast. You nailed it perfectly.
Or you mean Cod Talk, like car talk?
Cod Talk? No, Codcast, Dave. It's right there.
Okay.
It's the whole reason I got that idea.
Okay.
We also have a store. It's stupid URLs. Just go to gamefullyunemployed.com. and you can get the link there. We got t-shirts, masks, mugs, stickers, posters, anything you want.
I just got so I have the shirt of the Mulder Sasquatch, and it's a great shirt. It's Teespring now. It's not T.
Yeah, we used to be on TeePublic,
and
but
their
they kind of
shirts
suck.
are really
so
nice. I'm really happy with them. So I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah,
they got good shirts.
Yeah.
Good fabric.
Oh, well, it's better quality. That's nice.
I would say better quality of the print. I would actually say that.
We get paid.
I'm not
more,
just
right?
making that up.
They pay us
a bigger
more, right?
cut.
We get a bigger cut. Yeah,
they treat their creators better than TeePublic.
Yeah.
But mainly, what it comes down to is that it is a better quality shirt. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a nice surprise.
That's good.
I had no idea when I fucking spun a wheel and was like, I guess we'll try this place. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah, it's working out for us. All right. Bye.